Well, thanks for staying with Morning Live. It's Budget Week, and a group of people from all across South Africa have travelled to Cape Town under the banner City of Excluded, the City of the Excluded. And this convergence in Cape Town ahead of the Budget Day on Wednesday is meant to look at various things. Now, before Finance Minister Tito Mboweni delivers his budget speech, the group will hold what it calls a real jobs summit, which will be followed by a demonstration where it will present a demand to Parliament. Now, the action group protesting under the caption, "We want jobs, dignity and service," is planning to build a mass campaign into a nationwide activity. Now, joining us now to tell us more about it from our Sea Point studios is Pinky Langa, who's from the Southern African Green Revolutionary Council. And here in studio with me is Zwelinzima Vavi from SAFTU. Thank you so much to both of you for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much for having us.
So let's just start with the different formations who have come together under this banner. And Pinky, perhaps I'll put this to you. Explain to us exactly what the objective is here.
So bringing together labor movements, the assembly of the unemployed, mining affected communities. We understand that we have different ideologies, we have different views, but there's one thing that unifies us, which is the issue of unemployment, the issue of dignity in South Africa. So we felt that it is very important for us to come together, because our understanding is that workers, at the end of the day, they belong to the community. So if we are dealing with a crisis in a community, which is one of them, the issue of unemployment, it is important for us to also bring the labor movement so that we deal with this kind of issues together, because we understand that if Eskom or any other companies, there's issues of job shedding, then the workers themselves will eventually join the assembly of the unemployed. So it is important to come together and we fight against that and we stop it, but not only fight, but also come up with, alternatives on how do we create more jobs? How do we stop this? Because also you look at the economy of South Africa, right? It is growing at less than 1%. So how do we then come together and stop that? But also when one is looking at capitalism, right? Because my understanding and the rest of the people's understanding is that capitalism, it is here. We are living under it. And you look at all the money that is being generated, especially from the mining companies, right? It is shifted, there's illicit financial flows. So, but if we come together and we fight against such things together, because our voice can be, other people can see us as a minority and will not take our issues into heart. But if now we come together with the labor movement, the unemployed people, mining affected communities, religious people and so forth, then maybe our call can be better heard. So that's why it's important for us to come together, even though we have different ideologies and different ways of doing things, but we have this one specific thing that unifies us, which is the issue of dignity and the job losses that are happening every day in this country.
Sounds noble, but let's be real, Zwelinzima Vavi. By no means new problems. So practically, how do you intend to change the trajectory?
Well, through doing two things. We're putting together proposals today. There's a job summit, the real job summit of the unemployed, and uniting with the rest of the working class formations in Cape Town, and that continues tomorrow. And so we will have concrete ideas about what we think should happen, what should be the solutions to the crisis of unemployment. But then we know that power concedes nothing without the struggle. And if you cannot win your battles in the streets, you are not going to win them in the negotiating table. So we're going to the streets on Wednesday, and we're now making a call on workers, the unemployed, the formations that are battling around every other aspect that requires attention of the government in the Western Cape and elsewhere in the country, to join the demonstrations of the cry of the excluded, to say to the government, but there are millions and millions of people who have been thrown into the streets without a hope. There are now over 10.5 million South Africans, and we now know that 6 out of every 10 of the youth are unemployed in the country. Almost 5 out of every 10 African black women are unemployed, and we know 4 out of every 10 of the people generally in our country are unemployed. We think that this represents a precipice, and that economical-wise, or economic speaking, South Africa seems to have reached a point of no return. Every report of Statistics South Africa indicate that things are getting worse and not better. Unemployment is going worse, poverty is getting worse, inequalities are getting worse, corruption is getting worse. There's no solution. So this cry of the excluded movement, as explained by Pinky, which is an attempt to bring everybody on board, is basically one of the desperate measures we're trying to do to mobilize at the level of conscious everybody in the country to rally behind alternative solutions to those that have been pursued by the government over the past 25 years. Because government on Wednesday is going to try to resolve the crisis of capitalism, the crisis of poverty, unemployment, and inequalities at the back of workers. We believe that Wednesday is going to represent the worst kind of attack that we have seen over the past 25 years through austerity. We've already have the belts on our bones, but on Wednesday, the government is going to be squeezing those bones. It's going to cutting the budget in all of the frontline services. It is going to be possibly increasing the VAT. It is going to be increasing the so-called sin taxes. It's going to be increasing the levies, including the to petrol and everything. And beyond the 26, it is going to be about more job losses, more wage freeze in the public sector, and it is going to be about more hell for workers, the working class, and the poor marginalized majority in our society.
Which makes it interesting to hear what your solutions possibly may be, given all the elements that you have just mentioned. We know that the population is growing at a rate faster than our economic growth, which is wholly unsustainable. When you say that this will be a real job summit, it kind of casts aspersions on the job summits that the president has been holding. So where are the real solutions? What are your real solutions in this regard? And I don't mean for you to run through everything that you mean to present at your own event, but perhaps 1 or 2 indicators of where there could be real meaningful change. Pinky?
So looking at the crisis, the ecological crisis that we see in this country or in the world, right? So, and looking at the current jobs that we are having in South Africa. So when we are talking about creating jobs, we need to think also that, okay, are those jobs not going to contribute to the already existing issues or crises that we are facing? So one of the things that we'll be talking about, it is the climate jobs, right, that we must create. Look at Eskom currently. They want to privatize it. It has got issues. We are facing load shedding every day. But then if now we would be talking about cleaner energy that doesn't contribute to the crisis that we are having, which is the climate change crisis, but also that will not give us issues of load shedding and stuff. So those are kind of things that we need to talk about. But my understanding is that, you know, we may come up with maybe talking about issues of transport to create a better transport system, but the people, the masses, the excluded people, they do have answers. Unemployed people know exactly what is it that they want to do. Right, but it's just that they are not given that platform to talk about their issues.
Okay, so what do they want to do?
You know,
give me 1 or 2 things. What do unemployed people want to do? Because all we hear about is unemployed graduates who fail to pull themselves up by their bootstraps.
Absolutely. No. There are about 600,000 people who are coming out of the universities in our country who have no jobs. Not because they are lazy, as some would like to suggest, but because there's a mismatch between what they were trained and what the job offers are in the labor market. That's the first point. The second point is that in any case, this economy is not working for the majority. That's why we're calling ourselves the cry of the excluded. This is an economy of the minority. It's smaller than 1% of the people who controls our mines, our land, our big manufacturing and industries, and our agriculture and everything. The overwhelming majority of our people are hungry. Their dignity have been taken away by poverty, precisely because the government would not listen to alternative policy proposals that have been there for years. We have been saying that neoliberalism, this thing of just creating a slim state whose main role and function is going to be about be a referee and not play any meaningful role in the economy, has not worked. The austerity programs that have been implemented in response to the world economic crisis of 2008 and 2009 is not working, and the current trajectory that we are following, the current growth path, even though there is a growth path proposal, even though there's an IPEP proposals, even though there have been ASGISAs and all of the proposals that we have seen, but we have not even touched the current crisis, the structural crisis that are facing our economy. And that's why every day we're simply reproducing unemployment, poverty, and inequalities. So we're going on Wednesday to Cape Town to say, but government, there are alternatives to neoliberalism. There are alternatives to austerity.
What are you disagreeing about when I say that unemployed graduates are unable to pull themselves up by the bootstraps?
Absolutely. In that context, that they can't survive. People have to march every day. They cannot survive because there's no opportunities. I mean, if you have a country already whose education system is dysfunctional, which sidelines the overwhelming majority of our young people, which leaks almost 50% of kids before they reach the grade 12 and throws them into the security sector, into being the cashiers in the retail stores, and being the this and that in the industries that are doing entertainment in the country. Then you must imagine what happens to the graduates that we are referring to. And that's, I think, the crisis. One of our structural problems in our country is that our education is not working for the overwhelming majority of our people. And that's why we're going to be marching on Wednesday.
Absolutely. One of the probably most pertinent structural problems, Pinky. You yourself can speak to this as an IT graduate who, I'm not sure if you're still unemployed, but at some point you were. So speak to us about that and what sort of prominence the structural educational problem will have in your particular program that will be presented.
Yes, I'm still unemployed as we speak, Sakina. And what we have been seeing is that what our government is putting forward in terms of, offering jobs, they are not creating, the jobs that we want, right? Because we actually want dignity. We don't want piecemeals. We want dignity. We want jobs with dignity and jobs that are sustainable. I did IT, but it has been difficult for me to get a job. So if I go to Emalahleni municipality and looking for a job, they will tell me about the EPWP jobs, right? What does that do for me? Because people there are earning something like $700. And you also think about black tax, right? Because I still have to support my family, also pay for my other fees. Hence, I'm one of those students who suffered from the fees must fall because my family could not afford to pay for me to further my studies, to do other things where I'll be able to at least get a better paying job where I'll have benefits and I know that, okay, I'm settled and, you know, I can be able to also help the younger children who are growing in my family. But it hasn't been like that. I have never ever got even a single job that had to do with IT. Right, but I had to become an activist and also fight for the other graduates that are graduating. So while we will be there in the Real Job Summit, right, with the graduated students that are unemployed, it is very important. One of the things that will be coming out there, because we don't want to be permanent complainees, but we will be coming up with solutions on how do we then assist our government, because we can see that, you know, they don't have proper plans. So it is our responsibility to come up with new ideas and new ways of doing things, because we understand how it feels to be unemployed, so we know what must be done to solve those issues. Because I'm one person who always says someone who is employed will not do justice in talking about issues of unemployment, but I know how it feels to be unemployed. That's why I will bring, you know, about critical issues and solutions to this matter. So that's what we're looking to discuss in our Real Job Summit.
Inherent in what Pinky is saying is, of course, another problem that you could argue is also part of the structural problem within our education system, which is we produce job seekers. And we've known for more than a decade now that the government will not be able to employ all the graduates whom we produce in this country. So when do we change again the system that produces the number of job seekers as opposed to job creators?
You know what we have allowed to happen in our country is this euphoria surrounding the matric results. We're now chasing the numbers, 78% this year, 80% next year. We are going forward. But whilst we're doing that, the crisis underneath continues to happen. The kids get excluded from grade 10 and 11 in particular. They do not reach grade 12, in our view, deliberately, in order for each and every principal and district manager to say, look, we're doing well in our school, without counting how many people get lost in the system. That's the first point. We're no longer allowing our kids to go back and back to the classroom and back behind the desk to study again if they fail their grade 12. You go to that system where you must write in June, and from there, if you don't pass, you would have been channeled to the 10.3, 10.5 million people who are unemployed, and they're saying they're unemployable. That's a problem. Secondly, we have not even addressed the issues of quality in our education. We know now that our kids at grade 4 and 5, both mathematically and from reading point of view, cannot compete with the rest of the world. We know that the people from Zimbabwe, Botswana, and all of our surrounding neighbors have far better qualities. Standards are better. You can see when they're here how they survive out of absolutely nothing, and how we cannot survive when we end up being the victims of drugs and violence and all that goes with it.
Well, we're going to have to park it there. No doubt we'll talk later during the week more about this, the caravan of the excluded. And as you can imagine, there will be various protests happening in and around Parliament before Tito Mboweni delivers his budget speech on Wednesday. But thanks so much to Pinky Langa, Southern African Green Revolutionary Council, and from SAFTU, Zwelinzima, Vavi. And that brings us up to news time with Leanne.